baseball fans, and welcome to this week's episode of Put Me In, Coach, a podcast that is always for baseball fans, but it is normally by baseball fans. But this week, it's by one baseball fan and that baseball fan's wife. My name is Carl Mizell, and who am I being joined by?
I am Katie Mizell.
That's right. I am being joined by my wife and fellow podcaster, Katie Mizell. Matt had some work engagement tonight or this week, really, that kind of precluded him from, recording the episode. And we were like, you know what? We don't want to do another rerun. So why don't we just have my wife join us on this episode that I called "Whatever You Do, Don't Do the Borat Voice"?
Yes, please, for the love of God, don't do the Borat voice. I hate it.
It's only been like 20 years. Like I think it still has legs.
No.
You would disagree.
I would disagree so fucking wholeheartedly at this point. Sacha Baron Cohen has moved on, and so should we.
That's fair. Now, I did mention that you are also a podcaster. I've mentioned several times on this show, and you've been on this show before.
Yes, I have. One other time.
You are the creator of and co-host of a podcast called Cheap Smut. So why don't you tell the folks and the audience who might not be familiar with our other podcast what it's about?
Oh, yeah. So Cheap Smut is a podcast wherein I read a cheap, less than $4.99, smutty, erotic romance book, and then I tell Carl the plot of that book. I read one book a week, and we record every weekend. We have a fantastic time talking about the wild, bananas, crazy shit that people in smut world have decided is a perfectly valid thing to put in a romance novel, and they are absolutely correct
about the questionable penises that people put in their bodies.
Y'all did not consent to that conversation, so I won't get into it. But if you want to get weird with it, Cheap Smut is our other podcast.
Yeah, and I promise you are not prepared for it. If you want to ease your way into it, we recently did an episode to honor the start of the baseball season. I presented a book to you, a gay baseball romance called One True Outcome, by the excellent Katie Casey. She's a phenomenal writer.
Fantastic. It was a very good book.
Yeah.
And super cute story.
And now that we're on camera, I know the audio only listeners can't tell, but our idiot dog Himbo Jones is here. Hello, Himbo Jones.
Hello, Himbo Jones.
Please be quiet. So we've got an episode on deck for you today. We've got a couple things we're going to talk about. Primarily, we're going to talk to Katie. I'm going to ask her just what it's like to be married to somebody who is probably more obsessed with baseball than anything that anybody in your life is obsessed with anything.
Yes.
But I have an excuse, and I've been tested. And then we're also, because we are recording this on Monday, June 3rd, so it is the third day of Pride Month 2024. So we thought we would take a look back. I initially wanted to tell you the story of Glenn Burke, widely considered to be the first semi-open gay professional baseball player. But if I'm being perfectly honest, I didn't really have the time or the bandwidth to tell Glenn Burke's story with the proper attention that it deserves. So instead, we will talk about Glenn, but we're going to talk about this fantastic article from Outsports from back in March that is a pretty comprehensive list of, as far as we know, the openly gay professional baseball players that have existed, including the only professional baseball player to be still playing actively while he was out. Now, unfortunately, Katie is amazing at everything she does, but one thing she does not do that Matt does do is the sound effects. So this is going to be a Put Me In Coach episode, bereft of sound effects.
Yeah.
Maybe Matt will put them in. Matt is going to edit this episode, so maybe he'll put them in post.
I can just say stuff. I just be like, Eagle Screech. He likes to do that one.
Sad trombone.
Sad trombone.
Whackety schmackety doo.
Whatever. I'll just make fart noise right into the.
There you
I don't
go.
Care.
Well, let's get into the.
Yes.
I'm going to say let's get into the news, and then we'll pause and give Matt a chance to put in some sound effects here. Dog, you better chill your shit out. And now for some baseball news. Because the universe mocks us here at Put Me In Coach, almost immediately after we wrapped up the recording last week, news broke that rightfully maligned umpire Angel Hernandez would be retiring. I think everything you need to know about Angel Hernandez is summed up by my wife, who, when I told her that, she said...
Thin-skinned penis Angel Hernandez?
That's not what you said.
No?
But
oh, what did I say?
You said even I know who Angel Hernandez is.
Even I do. It's true. I do know who Angel Hernandez is. He's a thin-skinned penis, according to my husband.
That's correct. He is a thin-skinned penis of a human being.
Yeah.
He over the course of a career that spanned 3 decades, Hernandez earned every single bit of his reputation for being just an awful umpire. Although he was not nearly as bad at calling the balls and strikes as many would like you to believe, his true gift was alienating literally anyone and everyone he ever shared a baseball field with. He famously held long-standing grudges against players and coaches. He was a lousy communicator with his fellow umpires and was not a fan of getting feedback on his calls, nor was he a fan of explaining those bad calls, and he will not be missed.
Didn't you tell me he once got a car for being corrupt? Was that him?
No, you're thinking of Joe West.
Okay.
You're thinking of Joe West, who, according to former catcher Darren Dalton, said that his teammate Lenny Dykstra, in order to get more favorable calls when he was at the plate, would lend him one of his really nice cars when he was in town.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, that's who you're thinking of. You're thinking of the formerly worst umpire, Joe West.
Angel Hernandez took his position.
Yeah, took his position, and now that Angel,
now he's formerly worst.
Now he's formerly worst. So now it's probably a toss up between CB Buckner and Laz Diaz.
I know that name.
Okay,
I know the name CB Buckner.
Now see, this is how if my non-baseball knowing wife knows your name.
Yeah.
You're a bad umpire.
Yeah.
And which is a common refrain, which is the best officials, the best referees are the ones whose names you don't know, because if you know their name, chances are they made a lot of bad calls. Mm-hmm. So Angel Hernandez, so long, farewell. Thanks for nothing.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Yep.
Goodbye. In
a development that literally everyone saw coming, we have our first potential player being receiving a lifetime ban from baseball in our new sports gambling era. San Diego Padres. I'm sorry, I forgot who I was co-hosting with. San Diego Daddies infielder.
Thank you.
Tucupita Marcano is facing a potential lifetime ban from baseball for placing bets on games involving the Pittsburgh Pirates while he was with that team last year. 4 minor leaguers who, as of yet, have not been named are reportedly also under investigation, but their fates seem to be tied to their status on their respective teams' 40-man roster. There's a key difference here.
Okay.
Because as far as I can tell, if they are not currently on a team's 40-man roster, they can avoid being subject to Major League Baseball's Rule 21, which is their rule that forbids gambling on baseball.
Okay. So wait, so they're not allowed to gamble on any baseball at all?
Correct.
Okay, good.
No baseball, no softball even, as far as I know. But the key...
No throwing-based bat enthusiast sport.
Probably safe to just leave basketball out of it too, because you're throwing a ball around. It's not...
Football even, because there's throwing and that.
Well, that's the sports egg. I wouldn't really call that a ball.
I just named all the sports I know involving throwing. Okay,
that's
Are you
true.
Happy?
No, I'm very happy.
Yeah,
we've been together.
Rugby.
almost 16 years. Of course I'm happy.
Oh.
And the reason the 40-man roster seems to be important is because if you're on the 40-man roster, you are then subject to like the whims of the team, the big club, and are therefore you could potentially go back and forth between the minors and the majors more easily because you're already on the 40-man roster. Ergo, you're subject to the major league rules. Okay. So if you're a minor leaguer who's not on your team's 40-man roster, then you might still face some kind of punishment, but it won't be a ban.
Okay. So the further away you are from the show, the less punished you'll get for betting on the show.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And the other part of the rule that I wanted to mention was that I read Rule 21 today. I'd never read it in its entirety, but there's a very important distinction between betting on baseball for games that you would have participated in and games that you did not participate in. If you bet on teams that you did not have anything to do with, you can still be punished, but you would only receive a 1-year suspension. But if you bet on games that you had direct involvement with, that would result in a lifetime ban. That is why Pete Rose is suspended for life.
Okay.
That's why this guy would potentially be suspended for life as well.
Okay, cool.
Because even though he was not playing all the time, he was on a team that he could potentially...
It's like insider trading.
Exactly.
You have insider information.
Exactly. He knows, this guy's got the shits. He's probably not going to pitch too well today, or, whatever. Like, this guy...
So-and-so broke up with his girlfriend and,
Exactly.
Now he, isn't catching for shit or whatever.
Exactly. See? You get it.
Well, I understand that emotions affect our ability to do our jobs. Yes.
You understand that that
or having the shits also affects it.
You understand that professional athletes are human beings. Is essentially what I'm saying here. Speaking of baseball or professional athletes being human beings, pour one out for the Detroit Tigers first baseman Spencer Torkelson. What happened? It's not what happened so much as what didn't happen. When I wrote the script, I said it was still reportedly, but now it is official. The Tigers have optioned first baseman Spencer Torkelson to their AAA affiliate in Toledo. The first overall draft pick in the 2020 draft seemed poised for a breakout, an even bigger breakout than the one he had last year after he blasted 31 home runs, the bulk of which came during a late season mini breakout. But to say that he has regressed this season would be a comically charitable reading of the situation. At press time, he is slashing 201, 266, 330 with nearly no extra base power, and he did not hit his first home run of the year until May 12th, which you might recall was well into the season.
Oh, yeah.
And then the Tigers also in a move that it was sort of tied to that, really. Sort of, but not really. I don't know. The Tigers have also called up their number 6 prospect, Justin Henry Malloy, who I have the game on the television back there. He's not doing so well right now, but that's okay. It would require a roster move. I wrote at the time it would require a roster move to free up a spot on the 40-man roster for him. The Tigers designated Buddy Kennedy for assignment. I'm sure everybody is devastated to hear that Buddy Kennedy was designated for assignment. Do you even know who?
No.
Yeah, that's fine.
No. I don't know who that is. I know what DFA means, but I don't know who Buddy Kennedy is. I do want to wish Spencer a fantastic time with the Mud Hens. And I hope that he gets the training that he needs.
Yeah.
He obviously was doing good.
Well, he was last year now, and there was some scuttlebutt that's been coming out that is alluding to the fact that he has been reluctant to... It sounds like the Tigers organization have, we have analytics and biomechanical analysis and everything. And it sounds like the Tigers have said, hey man, we think that if you do this, it's going to help you out. And he hasn't really done that. Okay. Again, that is just stuff that's been floated out there. It's neither here nor there, but it wouldn't be the first time that a successful professional athlete was a bit resistant to change.
No.
Speaking of highly touted prospects struggling, over the weekend, the Washington Nationals DFA'd their former top prospect, Victor Robles. He was signed at the age of 16 out of the Dominican Republic and back in 2013, but he never came close to meeting the lofty expectations that were placed upon him, slashing 236, 311, 356 in 7 seasons with the Nationals. But cry not for Victor, though, as it was announced today that the Seattle Mariners have signed him, but not just signed him. They signed him to a major league contract. So it wasn't like a minor league deal with the possibility.
Ooh.
Yeah. So they believe they like them some Victor Robles.
Wonderful.
Yes. Just 2 weeks after St. Louis Cardinals catcher Wilson Contreras suffered a broken arm as the result of a backswing, Blue Jays farmhand Peyton Henry suffered a concussion when he got nailed with a backswing during a game over the weekend against the Syracuse Mets, a game that I believe the Buffalo Bisons, the Toronto AAA affiliate, was leading 4-2 at the time, and the game was just called because it was in the 7th inning. Because he took the bat off the back of the head and just dropped.
Okay.
Like a stone.
Yikes.
Took him off on a backboard.
Oh.
And everything. He did eventually tweet out that he was doing okay and thanked everybody for their support. But a lot of conversation has been springing up. You probably aren't aware of this. But a lot of conversation has sprung up this year over catchers. A lot more catchers interference calls are being made. Like if you swing your bat and it hits the catcher, even just like brushes the glove, that's catcher's interference, and you get to take your base.
Okay.
So back in the middle of May, when Wilson Contreras got his arm broken with a backswing, the batter got his base.
Okay.
Even though he got his arm broken.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are tying it to the attempt in any way, shape, or form for people to try catchers to get every little advantage they can to try and steal a strike here and there. And that includes moving up a little further towards the plate to try and catch that ball a little bit sooner, maybe frame it a little bit closer to the strike zone to try and get that strike, because every strike counts.
Okay. Yes. Sorry, I have trouble picturing things in 3-dimensional spaces. Yeah. Carl knows this, but I think I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. So if the catcher normally sets up like 2 feet behind home plate, they're trying to set up 23 inches behind home plate instead of 24 inches.
Okay.
Kind of thing.
Sure.
Because it's, the strike zone is a 3-dimensional object and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And lastly in the news, we've talked about this around Smutco Industries here, as we call our 2-person operation. Lastly in the news, Major League Baseball quietly unleashed an unholy storm of discourse last week when they announced, practically like in the middle of the night, that they added the statistics for 7 of the major Negro Leagues to their official historical record. And as a result, the all-time statistical leaderboards got a huge and unexpected overhaul, quite literally, overnight. Chief among these changes is the addition of Josh Gibson at the top of several major categories, including career totals for batting average, slugging percentage, and on-base plus slugging, and single season records for batting average and slugging percentage. And like I said, the discourse around this has been unholy and swift. A lot of, believe it or not, a lot of good points on both sides. I actually, like I told you this, I read something that I thought was very fascinating, which was somebody argued against doing this, but simply because they viewed it as like an attempt for Major League Baseball to sort of try and whitewash and be like, oh, no, look, we've included their stats. Everything's fine now. Okay. It never happened because we acknowledge their stats, but we all know why. Why it happened is because of racism.
Well, yes, we are all aware of it.
So they're trying to they're trying to this person's reading. Yeah, they're trying to sort of paper over the past and just be like, well, their stats are included now. What else could we, you can't fix the past. You can't fix the mistakes of the past.
That is the one thing that you can't do. Until MLB puts their significant financial capital behind inventing time travel,
right?
Then
Rob Manfred, if you do time travel, I'll forgive everything. Well, no, you have to invent time travel and stop racism.
Yeah, that's gonna be good luck, Rob.
If anybody can do it, it's not Rob Manfred. He will still somehow find a way to fuck it up
by simply not caring. would he
Exactly.
fuck it up?
Yeah. That's pretty much it. No, I think it's great. And some people have argued against it and be like, well, Ty Cobb had over 11,000 at bats and Josh Gibson only had like 2,300 at bats. Okay, fine. Cy Young had 511 wins. Like no one's ever going to top that.
Mhm.
If we're going to acknowledge the crazy ass records that were set when the sport was wildly different. If we're going to continue to honor those,
Mhm.
I don't see any problem with honoring the stats of these players,
Right.
even though they didn't play as many games in a season, even though they didn't get as much.
Right. Okay, like you're talking about like they didn't play as many games in a season because they didn't have as much opportunity to do so. I'm sure they meticulously kept their book, but were their books maintained? Did anyone care? Are all of these stats accurate?
Well, yeah, exactly.
Is this a way underrepresenting all of these players? Because that would be my assumption, is that these stats are actually way underrepresenting what those players were actually capable of.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the inclusion of the inclusion of statistics from the 2020 COVID shortened season, pretty much negates. If you're going to include stats from a 60 game season in 2020, why are you going to try why are you going to try and exclude the stats from a 60 game season that these guys played in 1929?
Spitting facts.
No. Well, this was not a thought that
it's not
an
yours?
original thought that I had, but
okay.
but somebody did.
Well, yeah.
Bring it up. But anyway, that's the news. That's the news for this week. So let's move on. So the first thing we're going to talk about here, just basically what it's like being married to somebody who is the lay person would say obsessed. But in our household, considering the fact that I am what is known as ASD level 1.
Mm-hmm.
I am autistic. I'm on the spectrum. I am what is known as ASD level 1, what it would have formerly been known as Asperger's. But because the guy who they named that after is a terrible monster of a human being, they were like, maybe let's not call it that anymore. So in that parlance, we would call it a hyperfixation.
Yes, it is a hyperfixation. It is your number one hyperfixation, I would say. It arguably number one or number two.
But between that and what?
Me.
Yeah.
No, I'm serious.
No,
it's not a joke.
No,
you're obsessed with me. It's great.
It's true. So I, at a very early age, roughly about 5 or 6 years old, I became obsessed with baseball. The Tigers won the World Series when I was 6 years old. And then my mom just sort of leaned into it. She started buying me every book that she could find. I memorized every stat. There was a time where I could have told you the statistics. I was obsessed with a guy named Mordecai Brown.
That is a fantastic name. I would be obsessed with him too.
Oh, but his nickname, he had probably the best baseball nickname of all time. His name was Mordecai Three Finger Brown. Do you want to know why they called him there?
Please tell me it's because he had 3 fingers.
It is.
On which hands?
His throwing hand.
Wonderful.
Yeah, he was a pitcher.
Yeah,
he was a pitcher. Go figure.
You don't need all of those fingers for pitching anyway. You really don't. You keep telling me it's all about like these 3.
It's really. I mean, it's really the index, the middle, and the thumb. Now, different pitches. Like Devin Williams' changeup. Anyway.
Look, if the guy from our hometown can prove that you don't even need 2 whole hands.
That's right, Jim Abbott.
To be a professional baseball player, then you certainly don't need 10 whole fucking fingers. So
Jim Abbott was like...
Mordecai Three Finger Brown and Jim Abbott are high-fiving in baseball heaven now.
Well, Jim's still around.
Okay. Time is relative. They are also in heaven at the same time. Time is a flat circle, Carl.
This is Jeremy Baramy.
The I dot over the I is Thursdays and also never.
Go watch The Good Place, kids. So we met 16 years ago in the fall of 2008, a simpler time when the Tigers were good, and hopes were high. And how quickly did you ascertain that not only did I like baseball, but I like baseball?
Actually, it took me a super long time
Okay.
to really understand how much deeper it went for you, because I grew up in a house where my dad watched sports all the time. Like, they were always on the TV, and all my cousins and sports are part of American culture. They're always on the television. And baseball in particular was a big thing in my house growing up. So the Tigers were always on. We were a Tigers house. So when you were like, I really like baseball, I love the Tigers, and the Cubs are my second.
Yeah.
Then, or my second team. I was like, okay, he's a baseball fan. A year into our relationship, we went to
Wrigley
Field, and we did our first tour of a stadium together. And even then, I don't think I realized. It wasn't until like, God, 8-9 years into our relationship when I was like, oh, this man is not normal about baseball. Okay. Yeah, there's a difference between liking baseball, loving baseball, and being not normal about baseball. You are not normal about baseball.
But that speaks to my obsession with you.
Yeah.
It's because I was just so obsessed with you for 8 or 9 years that you couldn't see.
Yeah, you were a normal person you were a normal baseball fan for a while.
Yeah.
Because you were hyper fixated on something else.
And then you were like, wait a second. Mm-hmm. I think this guy's like,
yeah, okay. At one point in our relationship, we were at a baseball game. We were at an actual physical game.
Mm-hmm.
So we haven't gone to that many together.
Not together, no.
You were talking to me about the game, and you were like talking with your hands, and it was all big and excited and stuff. And I love it when you do that. Yeah. I love when people get really excited when they tell me about the things they love. But the way you were talking about it and breaking it down, it was like what you were seeing in front of you was the fucking Matrix. Was that green text just spilling down in front of you. And I had no fucking clue what you were talking about. And that's when I realized, oh, yeah, okay, he's different.
Yeah. And since then, it's become, I mean, obviously this podcast is a direct result of that, because I wanted to make a podcast about baseball with a friend of mine who also loved baseball. I coached my son's t-ball team last year. I'm not coaching this year. That's just, I'm done. I'm tired. Our daughter is 3 or will be 3. This week she will be 3. And dealing with her bullshit, like on the daily, makes me like, last year she was 2. She was cool.
She was not cool.
I mean, cool. She was cooler. But I still had energy at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. But I work from home most days, and I got to deal with.
We have to tag team her.
Yeah,
you got a 2-person job.
You do. I mean, my workstation's right over there for the folks, the viewers of YouTube. That's where I work and record this podcast, usually over there. And this couch, when I don't have a big important call or something to make, this is usually where my wife and daughter sit and partake throughout the day, because we all like to be so together. But yeah, so there are times where like I have to jump in and help her so she can go do something, because all Katie wants to do is go take a shit.
Yeah.
But we've got our daughter trying to run around and constantly pester her. It's a lot, is what I'm saying.
It is. It's a lot.
You
can't leave the room without her being like, come back.
Yeah, where mommy? I don't know, trying to get 5 fucking seconds apiece. Was there ever a time when you were like, I think we need an intervention, like
on the baseball?
Baseball in general, not MLB the show.
Okay, I was gonna say, because if we're talking about MLB the show, then yes.
Yes.
But you did that on your own. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You looked like 30 days sober or something.
Yeah, I should.
We should get you chips.
I should get some chips for that. Yeah.
No, I don't think so. I don't think there's ever been a time where I thought you care too much about baseball, or baseball is affecting you too deeply in some way. There was a point where you got really gung-ho about your visiting the ballparks plan, and you were like, I think I could do 4 or 5 parks this year. And then I was going to be like, honey, not because you couldn't do it, because you were like, I can budget this, I can make it work. Yes, you can. That is not going to do good things in our relationship. Like,
I'm gonna go away for a week.
Yeah, you are going to go on a bunch of super fun trips around the country to do this really cool thing you want to do 5 times this year, and you're gonna leave me at home with your children.
They're mine when I'm not here.
I carried them for 9 months.
That's fair. You know,
I care for them every day.
You know, that's fair.
And I have never gone for like a vacation to a ballpark.
Well, you should start. They're lovely places to go.
When?
Comerica's got a Ferris wheel.
Kong.
Go. Caca.
Kong. That's when. French. I'm learning to speak French. So.
Oh.
Kong.
Oh, is that when? Okay. Je ne comprends pas.
Je ne comprends pas.
That's the only French I know. That's not fair. That's not true. I know tu es très beau, tu es très belle.
We're going so far off the rails.
Je m'appelle.
Je m'appelle.
No, it's fine. This is people tune in because they want to know. Carl always talks so much about his smoking hot babe of a wife. I wonder what she thinks about all this.
What does she think? This is what she thinks.
Like the other day, the Tigers, you came in and, hey, we were going to go outside and have our little nightly smoke sesh.
Yeah.
And you were like, hey, I'm ready to go. You ready to join me? And I said, no, the Tigers got a no-no going.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, okay. And you knew immediately.
Oh, yes, I did.
What that meant.
Yes, I did.
So you made a TikTok about it and everything.
I did. Yeah.
But have you been surprised by like anything else that you did you ever speaking of the Matrix, have you had like a Neo I know Kung Fu moment?
Oh, where I've understood a baseball
where
thing?
You understood a baseball thing and you surprised yourself?
I can't think of something off the top of my head, but like in general, you can talk to me about baseball now and I basically understand what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You still have to explain rules to me a lot, and like the really complicated stuff. But I understand most of it, and you can say names to me now and I know who those people are most of the time.
Yeah. We're getting there.
Yeah,
I mean,
we're getting there.
Yeah, you know the big ones. You know your Shoheis, your Trouts, most of the Tigers.
Yeah, so if you're like to take it back to languages, it's like I've been immersed.
Yeah. In
the language for long enough that I can understand it enough to have a conversation. You know, I'm not a native.
No.
But
you like you probably can't explain what a balk is, but that's because a lot of people don't know what a balk is. Even the umpires. I can
understand what the word balk is, but when you tell me what a balk is and isn't, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Could show you what it was, but trying to explain it is impossible. And I know we joked briefly about like, oh, it'd be fun to try and like explain the infield fly rule.
Oh yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah. But no, it's not. It's not fun because the infield fly rule is not fun to me. So
no. Now, last year, just over a year ago, so like I think March of last year, Matt was on our show.
Yes.
And we did we did a crossover episode where he was on our show when you presented a book called The Pitcher's Assistant by Jessa Kane.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, Jessa Kane, for those of you who don't know, how would you say where would you say she ranks in the pantheon of like, is she like one of the top indies? Is she an indie?
No. Well, she's an indie.
Okay.
I wouldn't say she's the top indie. I wouldn't even say that she is a name that a lot of people would recognize. Jessica Kane is a very specific type of author. And if you read her books, then you know her books and all of the other authors who write books like her.
Okay.
But no, she's not huge. She writes novellas. She writes little snippets of a very specific type of relationship, a very specific type of kink, and a very specific type of like formula.
Mm-hmm. And would you say that the pitcher's assistant fell right into that?
Oh God, yes. That's
It was like peak
her
her.
Jessica Kane. Not
Right.
quite, actually. It's the pitcher's assistant is actually pretty early in her writing career.
Okay.
But it is early Jessica Kane work. You can tell it's definitely her.
Yeah. Now, and then you came, or Matt came on the show, you walked us through it, and Matt and I were constantly like,
Yeah.
what the fuck?
Yeah.
Has Jessica Kane
never even seen a baseball?
Never even
guaranteed.
seen a baseball ever, because the MMC, the male main character, for those of you who are not
main masculine character.
Main masculine. Oh, thank you. Oh, yes.
How I like to say it. I don't know if that's actually what it means, but that is what I say.
That's fair. That's a good correction. The MMC is a guy named Court Malloy.
Yes.
And she made an interesting decision to use, she said he played for the Astros.
Yes. Yeah.
But that he was a relief pitcher.
Mm-hmm.
And
he was a closer.
Or as a closer. Yeah. Well, yeah. So look at you getting semantic about.
I'll get semantic about my book all day. I've read that book many times.
Well, a closer is a type of relief pitcher.
Okay. I just know that he's a closer. So
that's okay. But at any point when you were reading that book before you presented it to us, was there any like baseball lingo that she used where it was even setting off your bullshit detectors?
No.
Okay.
Never, not once.
All right.
Never, not once.
Now that's important to note because
there was only about 4 baseball things in that whole book.
Right. But you said that he had the highest batting average for a closing pitcher ever.
Yep. I said he had the highest batting average for a closing pitcher ever. And I said that he had there was something else about his pitching that was like, he can't be both a closer and a something else, but I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember. But then also like he was an orphaned farm boy who went to a tryout.
Yeah, yeah.
And got signed by the Astros.
Went to an open tryout and became the Astros star closer.
Yeah. And then at one point, like Pippa was, I believe, the woman's name in the book. It was Pippa.
I believe it was, yes.
She they had the moment where like she was watching him warm up in the bullpen and she like climbed down and like jumped down into his arms and they kissed. And I'm like, that's like a 10-foot fucking wall. Anybody can Google Minute Maid Park bullpen. Jessa.
Yep. Yep, she did. She climbed over the wall and jumped down into his arms.
It felt like a personal attack. It was like Jessica Kane wrote that book with the express intent of having it presented on a podcast where the presenter was married to a baseball obsessed person and it was just like a troll job. It was the most insane thing.
Yeah, the thing about sports romances is they come in two flavors.
Yeah.
Flavor number 1 is I love this sport and I have done my research about it, and flavor number 2 is I don't give a fuck about this sport. It's not about the sport.
It's not about it never was.
It never was. It was about romance between an athlete and not an athlete.
Yep. Now conversely, Katie Casey,
yes,
who wrote One True Outcome, which I presented on the show, she in her day-to-day life, and I don't think she writes under the name Katie Casey, and I haven't figured out what her name actually is. She writes for publications like Baseball Prospectus.
Yes.
So the baseball talk in One True Outcome was phenomenal. And I was floored because I was so into the romance between Mac and Jamie, but also I was just really impressed by the level, and it wasn't super like granular or anything about statistics or anything,
but it was real baseball.
But it was real baseball, and she understood like, you know, when Mac got DFA'd, like that was a thing. Like everything was laid out. She didn't go into the Byzantine rules of DFAs and how it works.
No, but she made it perfectly clear how it worked to the layperson.
Exactly. And you could understand simply from the context, like, oh, this guy just got fired.
Yeah.
Functionally for all intents and purposes. We've talked about this before, but you like going to baseball games.
I do like going to baseball games. Yes.
Do you have like now no, it was 3 years ago now because our daughter had just been born.
Yeah.
When we lived not too far from the Lansing Lugnuts, the Oakland A's affiliate. And just for grins, basically as a birthday gift to myself.
Yeah. You got yourself
I got a suite
for grins.
If you're near a minor league ballpark that offers suites, I highly recommend it because you get the suite experience, but you pay minor league prices. I think it was $500.
Yeah, it was a super fun time.
Yeah, and we got to jam like 15 people in there. Yeah. I mean, God,
there was an air conditioned indoor section, which was freaking rad because I just had a baby and I was not about to sit on the heat all day.
Yep. So if you come out, watch the game from right above home plate. Is that your optimal baseball viewing experience? Is like, I want to be out here, but then I want to be able to go to air conditioning.
I mean, if I could always be able to do that, then yes, that would be my optimal baseball viewing experience for sure. But your standard baseball game, I just don't want to be in the sun all day. Burn. Yeah. I get hot. And now I'm on a medication that makes me overheat sometimes. Yeah. So I have to be careful about that.
Yeah. Well, that's why whenever I go to Comerica, my favorite seats are up in section 327, 328.
Yep.
Straight behind home plate in the third deck.
Yep.
Straight back underneath that big ass awning. I took that game that your dad and I went to a couple of years ago.
Yeah, you've taken me to those seats, I think.
Yeah, he was like, "Oh yeah, I never sat up here, but this is pretty nice." I'm like, "Yeah, man, you get a breeze, you get to look out on the view over Woodward, you get to see the Fox and the Fillmore and all that stuff."
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, you get a nice breeze. It's terrific. All right, I'm going to open up my tablet here again.
Plus, if I remember correctly, you walk right out onto the concourse, and there's a Little Caesars like right there.
Yes. Pizza almost practically
practically in your lap.
Practically
Pizza and beer
in your lap. Exactly. So because it is Pride, we talked about this. It is the start of Pride 2024. Happy Pride to all those who celebrate.
Woo!
Such as myself.
And also me.
And also you. Yep. I didn't want to put that on you, but we are a queer couple.
Yes.
And
we're hetero presenting, but don't make assumptions.
That's right. You don't want to know what I've gotten up to. Maybe you do. I'll tell you. It's fine. But so we wanted to talk about the I think it's 13 or 14, according to this. There's been 14 out gay major and minor league baseball players. And like I said, we originally were going to talk about the life of Glenn Burke, but I really didn't want to do it short shrift because he had a fascinating and somewhat tragic life.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to half-ass a story about Glenn Burke. So I thought we would take a look at this piece today. And we're going to focus on two players in particular. One of them is Glenn Burke. Glenn Burke was an outfielder for the Dodgers back in the late 70s. He also played with the Oakland A's for a little bit. And even though he was never truly out, he was functionally out by all accounts. There was Davey Lopes was a teammate of his, and he was always saying like, "Yeah, man, we knew, we just."
It was an open secret.
Yeah, it was an open secret. The Dodgers apparently were trying to stifle rumors that he was gay, and they offered him $75,000 to get married.
Oh Lord!
To which he replied, "I guess you mean to a woman?"
Yeah.
Allegedly, fans, or not allegedly, anecdotally, fans in Oakland would, in the bleachers, would holler the F slur at him. So it was public enough, that people knew. So to say that he was truly like the first out baseball player is a bit of a misnomer. He did speak about it for the first time publicly in 1982 after he had retired. He did participate in the Gay Olympics. I think it was called, like, literally it was called the Gay Olympics. He participated in a couple of sports. He was also a phenomenal basketball player. Baseball was an afterthought
That's rad.
to Glenn Burke, but he grew up in Oakland, where there was it was a huge sports town there. There was
fantastic athletes come out of there.
Andrew Moranis. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Maraniss.
I would say Moranis.
Yeah, there you go. Moranis. Andrew Moranis. He wrote an excellent biography on Glenn Burke that I have read called Singled Out. So if you want to learn more about him, you should definitely check that out. If nothing else, there is one thing that you definitely need to know about Glenn Burke, and that he is one half of the duo.
I know this. Who invented the high five?
That's right.
Ugh. Imagine being half of the duo that invented the high five. That's so right. Fucking cool.
Yep. He, along with his then teammate, Dusty Baker. So yeah, if you have a chance, I highly recommend you read Singled Out. That book goes into way more detail than I just did, and I highly encourage you to do so, because it was an extremely well-written book. Now, the second player that I wanted to highlight, the man who is credited as being the first openly out professional baseball player actively playing, was a man named Sean Conroy. And on June 25th, 2015, Sean Conroy, who was a pitcher for the minor league Sonoma Stompers in California, made history by becoming the first openly gay active professional baseball player.
Okay.
And as a result of it, he's sort of in the Hall of Fame.
Okay.
The Baseball Hall of Fame. Yeah, the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, New York, reached out, and they wanted to display the lineup card from the game, the lineup card and the scorecard from the game, which to Sean Conroy said, quote, "It is very humbling and completely unexpected," close quote. All of his teammates signed the lineup card.
Oh, that's cool.
So how neat is that? There is another player. This one, the name is going to sound familiar to a lot of you included, but you're just hold your horses. Billy Beane.
My horses are held because it's not Brad Pitt.
It's not Brad. It's not the real life version of the character Brad Pitt played in Moneyball.
Yeah,
that is a different Billy Beane.
Yeah.
This was a former Detroit Tiger. He played for the Tigers, the Dodgers, and the Padres from 1987 to 1995.
Not called the Padres.
Sorry, the Daddies.
Thank you.
San Diego Daddies.
San Diego Daddies in this house.
During his career, he was closeted and did not come out until 4 years after he retired, but he has since gone on to become a very vocal advocate for LGBTQ inclusion. He's been working with Major League Baseball, like as I believe in their DEI department.
Oh, wonderful.
He was named Outsports Male Hero of the Year in 2015, and as of last December, he has been having some health issues. He has been battling leukemia, but hopefully all is going well.
Absolutely.
For I was going to say Mr. Bean. Didn't mean for it to come out like that. The gentleman that you thought was a young Justin Verlander is actually former Cleveland Guardian and Toronto Blue Jays pitcher TJ House. He came out on December 8th, 2022, after attending a White House ceremony where President Biden signed the Respect for Marriage Act, and where TJ House announced his engagement.
Oh, that's nice, TJ.
Right? Those are the three. So let's see here. So Burke, Burke, Bean, and House are the only three big leaguers, like the only guys who have played in the majors.
Okay.
Who have,
that you're aware of.
That we're aware of. Exactly.
Going back over 100 years of thousands upon thousands of men playing this sport.
Oh, yeah.
You are talking about hundreds of men who simply did not say. Thousands.
Yeah.
Who simply did not say that they were gay or bi or pan or ace or any number of other things. Straight.
Could you imagine trying to explain asexuality to Ty Cobb?
Oh yeah, can you look Ty Cobb right? Can you imagine me looking Ty Cobb right in his face and saying, "Ty, I simply don't want to have sex.
Right?
What would he do?
I
mean,
go,
besides call someone to give me a lobotomy or
right?
something.
Yeah. How are you going to make a baby?
Yeah.
You're a woman. You should be making babies.
Yeah.
Um,
Get the laudanum.
exactly. You try and tell, any guy from back then what it meant.
Yeah.
To be asexual.
I just think someone's broken inside you, whatever.
Yeah.
But then that's still the case. So,
Yeah. And then there has been one woman, Isla Borders.
Ooh.
Isla Borders. She was the first woman to earn a scholarship in collegiate men's baseball and and was a pitcher in an independent minor league or in the independent minor leagues in the late 1990s. Her girlfriend is Sherry Morrell, who at one time was the first out gay coach in women's Division I basketball.
Oh,
just
cool.
blazing trails.
Wonderful.
Blazing trails all over the place here. Let's see here. Who else we got? Some names that I don't recognize. I did recognize, of course, the big leaguers, but there's so many guys that play in the minor league system that it's impossible. Yeah. And young man named Anderson Comas pitched from 2017 to 2023, and he came out in 2023. David Dennison was an outfielder and a first baseman from 2013 to 2016. He came out as publicly gay and received immediate support from the Milwaukee Brewers organization. So I'm guessing he was
part of their
probably in. Yep,
yeah,
exactly. Here's one. Solomon Bates. That name I actually do recognize. He came out to his teammates in 2019 and publicly in 2022. He said, I haven't been out as my complete self because I've been hiding myself. I'm a masculine man who loves the sport of baseball, and now I want to open up doors for gay athletes like me.
Wonderful. Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
Conversely, we have the story of Ty Dunnington. His is a bit of a sad story, or a very sad story. He told Outsports that he quit baseball when his teammates made offensive remarks about gays. He said, quote, I was also one of the unfortunate closeted gay athletes who experienced years of homophobia in the sport I loved. I was able to take most of it with a grain of salt, but towards the end of my career, I could tell it was affecting my relationship with people, my performance, and my overall happiness. I experienced both coaches and players make remarks during my time in baseball, and each comment felt like a knife to my heart. I was miserable in a sport that used to give me life, and ultimately I decided I needed to hang up my cleats for my own sanity.
Oh my God, that's so sad.
Not to be too heavy-handed about this whole thing, but to your point, like you just said, imagine how many guys who are out there playing right now.
Yeah,
potentially, right? Like we have the Tigers and Rangers on right now.
Maybe it's that guy.
I mean, it could be that guy. It could be that guy. It could be literally anybody on this field. It could be somebody out there playing a game somewhere in the country right now, going through this exact same thing, and just, maybe they were able to deal with it a little bit more. They shouldn't have to.
No.
They shouldn't have to. Absolutely not. Jason Birch, pitcher from 2003 to 2008. He played for 4 minor league teams and told teammates he was gay if they asked. His one regret, he says, was not coming out publicly while active. Mm-hmm. He says, looking back, I wish I had told the whole world that I'm gay from day one. That feeling of being relied upon, that people must turn to you as a closer to make things right, to have that role and to have people have that feeling about me in that role as a gay man, I think that would have been a powerful message. If we were talking about changing people's opinions, I do think that would have been a powerful message, but I wasn't really thinking about that at the time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it would have been, but should you have to think of yourself as being the message maker?
Yeah, and that's a terrible position to be in.
Yeah.
Because it's not yours.
Live your life and enjoy your happiness with the people that you love and your teammates in the sport that you love.
Yeah.
And not have to be like the face of gay baseball.
Exactly. And I wanted to talk about this because it's important to me, but that's exactly like it's not their responsibility. But I couldn't even imagine the pressure.
Yeah.
But I'm sad that it even matters that I'm talking about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I just wish I wish that it would just not be a big fucking deal.
Yes, I agree. I wish that it wasn't a big deal. I wish that when you were a kid, you had, examples of bisexual baseball players that just existed and didn't have to be like out and proud,
Yeah. Yeah.
I wish that I didn't have to spend half my damn time wondering if I'm queer enough. It's just
and
it's
that's
just hard.
And that's the thing is, like, being I didn't discover that about myself. I suspected it, but I didn't really embrace it until I was in my 40s. Like, I didn't even then.
Yeah. Well, you came out to me when you were like 43.
Yeah, I didn't feel comfortable talking about it or even thinking about it.
Yeah.
And now that I do, I'm fine. But to that point, I still also don't feel very comfortable about talking about my autism, because like you said, I don't, there are people who I have seen things on the internet where people say you don't look autistic.
Oh yeah.
Like, how do you,
what does that even look
what
like?
is that? What, do you, anyway, let's go back to this, because we have a bit of a more uplifting story here from Kieran Lovegrove. He was a pitcher for 10 years from 2012 to 2021, and he struggled with his identity for years. But in 2018, he took a chance with his teammates, and he never looked back. He says, quote, "I made some offhand comment, and one of my teammates was just like, 'So what do you identify as? Because you're not straight, are you?' And I was like, 'No, I'm not. I'm bisexual. I appreciate you asking.' And everybody was just like, 'Okay, cool, awesome.' Then we had 9 hours left on the bus ride. And from that point, everyone just sort of embraced that as a fact of my life and didn't treat me any differently because of it."
Hey.
Holy fuck.
Look at that.
Holy.
You're not straight, are you? You're not. We can tell.
Yeah.
You're not.
Now, here's a fun one. And if you're listening, Brian Ruby, if you're listening, I'm so sorry. But Brian Ruby played in 6 foreign countries and in a United States independent league and came out in 2021. He's also a co-founder of an organization called Proud to Be in Baseball, an advocacy and support group focused on elevating LGBTQ inclusion in the sport. He's also an accomplished musician based in Nashville. Why did I apologize to Brian Ruby? Because somebody from his organization reached out to our show last year and was like, "Hey, would you like to have Brian Ruby on the show? He would love, to talk about that."
Yeah.
And we were like, "I guess we should turn on our notifications for the show email." So I'm gonna try and make that right.
Yeah.
But not in June.
No, but just because. But
Yeah.
just because they reached out.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
It would be cool.
That would just be cool to talk to the guy.
Absolutely.
You played professional baseball in 6 foreign countries, you said?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
On my husband's show.
Please do. A couple more. Tyler Townsend was a first baseman for 4 seasons from 2009 to 2012. He had recurring hamstring issues that derailed his career. But he, again, see if this sounds familiar. "I was afraid of what would be said by my teammates and by fans. I always had a goal of getting to professional baseball since I realized I had the ability to do it. And I just didn't want anything to take away from that. I would have come out if I made it to the pros," he said with a hint of regret.
Yeah.
I can't remember who wrote it. It was Tony. It wasn't Tony Kushner. He did Angels in America. But there's the great the Tony, I believe Tony Award winning play "Take Me Out." I wanted to do that show for a long time.
To Google.
But it's a play about a professional baseball player who starts a relationship with I believe a PR, somebody involved in like the PR world of that, of his team. And comes out as gay. But like the way it's presented in the book is he is sort of like the Shohei Ohtani, like the biggest star in the game coming out. Could you imagine if, and again, this is purely hypothetical. I'm not saying that anybody is or isn't. I'm just saying, like, imagine if Aaron Judge or a Mike Trout or a Shohei Ohtani or a Ronald Acuna, came out as gay. So who wrote that one?
Richard Greenberg.
Richard Greenberg. I was going to say Tony Green. I was going to say Tony Greenberg.
And it did win the 2003 Tony Award for Best Play.
There you go. And the guy who originated that role, the baseball player role, he ended up on the excellent FX show Rescue Me many years later. Or not many years later, many years ago, a couple of years after that play debuted. And then lastly, John Dillinger, who pitched for 14 seasons. He was a closeted pitcher who spent 11 seasons in baseball's minor leagues, where he played for 15 teams in 5 different organizations. After retiring from the sport in 2005, he came out in 2007 and identifies himself as a happy out gay man. Anyway, so that is the history of the 14 out players that we are aware of in professional baseball. So thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for hearing us go through that. And I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope that you learned a little bit about it. And I know we kind of blew through it because, quite frankly, I don't want to be heavy-handed about it, but I at least want to honor it.
Yeah. I mean, you don't need to go all like rainbow washy and weird about it, but there have been gay baseball players. Let's talk about them.
Exactly. And I like I said, every night you turn on a baseball game.
Oh yeah.
There is a strong chance that
there is a 100% chance that you're looking at someone who isn't perfectly straight.
Oh no. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely not.
On every team in the country.
Yeah.
Not like a bat boy or somebody on their physio team. One of the dudes in the pants. You know what pants I'm talking about.
Well, they're pretty terrible this year. The pants aren't as good as they used to be.
Wow.
Not that I've noticed.
Well, I've seen a few people very much complimenting some of the whiter, more see-through pants.
Go Google Casey Schmidt. SCHMITT. Balls. Casey Schmidt balls. It's really weird asking my wife. I know all the details, but the listeners might not know. Tell them where they can find your/our other podcast and where they can find you on social media.
You can find us on social media everywhere. We are on TikTok, Instagram, and Threads at Chief Smut, I believe, or at Smut Co.
At Cheap Smut.
And then the podcast itself is available on all platforms. We are available through Spotify, Apple, Google, YouTube.
Yep.
Name a place, you can get it there. And if you want it a week early, we are even available on Patreon, where you can pay $1 to get each drop 1 week early. We release 1 episode per week on a yearly schedule. So yep. we just dropped episode 60. There is a deep back catalog for you to get involved in right now.
Yep. And even if it's not your thing, if you've got somebody in your life who is like, hey, you are always you every time I come into the room, you hide your Kindle from me.
Yeah.
If you live with somebody, or if you know somebody who has a Kindle and they've never let you see their Kindle, this is the show for them.
Yeah, it definitely is. If you say the word nodding to a friend or loved one and they look uncomfortable, please send them my way.
A KNOTTING.
Yes.
Just go up to them and be like, hey, have you ever heard of this thing called nodding?
Yeah. If I were to say that you look like an Omega, would you be offended?
Yeah.
Or would you be a little flattered?
Yeah. If they're a little flattered,
send them my way.
Tell them to listen to that podcast. That is all for us this week. Matt usually does this part, so I don't know how to end this podcast. So thank you for listening to another episode of Put Me in Coach, and thank you to Katie for joining me on this episode.
Oh, thank you very much for letting me be here. I had a very good time pretending to know anything about baseball for an hour.
But you know about me.
I do know about you.
Yeah.
That I do.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Put Me in Coach is an Arctic Sounds original podcast hosted by Matt Coggins and Carl Mizell. Theme music is by Quack Quack Seatback. Edited and produced by Matt Coggins. Check out the footnotes of this episode to see links to all the great highlights, articles, and sources we mentioned on the podcast today, as well as the full theme song and ways to get in touch with us. For more, find us on Twitter and Instagram at PutMeInPod or at our website, putmeincoachpod.com.